before I get started, I'd like you all to give yourselves a rousing round of applause for supporting Justice and Mumia Abu Jamal. Having said that, I'm going to make sure that I stick to my 10 minutes because we got so many other speakers who have some powerful information to share. 3 things basically I want to talk about, and I'll make sure I keep them within the 10 minutes. First is about juvenile law. You might ask, how does juvenile law have anything to do with Mumia's case? I'll explain that. Then I'm going to talk to you about the death penalty in general, and finally, I'm going to get into some specifics about Mumia's case. Many of you, I'm sure, listened to WRD 900 AM, and if you did, you heard the bullshit from Mr. Lynn Abraham, Seth Williams. But let me just get into the specifics right now. First thing in regard to juvenile law, the same system that tried to murder Mumia Abu Jamal is the same system that puts kids in prison for life for longer than any other state in the United States. More than Texas, more than Mississippi, more than Alabama. And if you think it's bad that Pennsylvania has more juveniles as young as 14 years old serving life without the possibility of parole, more than any state in the country, and it gets worse. Pennsylvania has more juveniles serving life without parole than any state in any country on the planet. That's the same system that tried to murder Mumia Abu Jamal. There are 450 juveniles, grown men now, many of them in their 60s and their 70s, who made mistakes as kids, 14, 15 years old, and that system, that Pennsylvania criminal and justice system that, again, tried to murder Mumia, treats kids, most of them poor white kids, black kids, and Latino kids. That's the same system we have to contend with. Let me jump now to my death penalty argument because this is critical. Anybody, and I'm sure we have enlightened folks here, so I'm preaching to the choir, but those of you out there who think that there are situations where the death penalty is warranted, let me just make some brief arguments. The first argument is that if you believe in a God, if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, anything, if you believe in any God, then the death penalty is sinful. If you don't believe in God, it's immoral and unethical under every circumstance. Why? Why is it sinful? Why is it immoral? And why is it unethical? It's very simple. We as humans don't create life. We procreate. So something before us created life. If we didn't create life, we don't have the authority to destroy life. So to the extent that you support the death penalty, you're killing the creation of the Creator. And those who say, well, anybody on death row, they should be there because they committed a brutal murder. It's the eye for an eye concept. And I say, okay, on its face, eye for an eye does sound reasonable. But let's take it to its logical conclusion. If we believe in killing killers, then why don't we rob robbers? Why don't we kidnap kidnappers? Even better. Because you know when you talk about the death penalty, there's a state employee that injects you with that lethal injection. So there's a state employee who gets paid through tax dollars to kill. If that's true, and it is, why don't we rape rapists? Why don't we hire a state employee whose job it is to rape convicted rapists? And you might say, well, that's obscene. That's outrageous. That's my point. If raping rapists is outrageous, then how much more outrageous is killing killers? It's all uncivilized. It's all barbaric. It's all inhuman. And it's all outrageous. And let me just wrap this up with a quick 3-4 minute discussion about why Mumia is not only, this is where the legal part comes in. We as lawyers come into court in criminal cases and we argue that our client is not guilty. When we say our client is not guilty, we're not saying he didn't do it. We're saying the prosecution can't prove it. There's a difference between being not guilty and being innocent. Not guilty means they didn't prove it. Innocent means you didn't do it. Well, in Mumia's case, here's a brother who's not only legally not guilty, but he's also factually innocent. And if you have a man who's legally not guilty and also factually innocent, it was a great day the other day when Mr. Seth Williams announced that he wasn't going to seek the death penalty. That's a tremendous victory, but it's only half of it. Those of you who know football, it's pretty much we got to the red zone, but we got to score a touchdown. We got to get to the end zone. Red zone means nothing. That's not 3 points, it's not 2 points, it's not even 6 points. We want 7 points. A 7 point is a touchdown. Now let me wrap it up by saying this. First of all, anytime you look at the criminal justice system, it's really a criminal injustice system. And I don't have any faith at all in the way the system works. In fact, I always say that I don't go to court to get justice. As a lawyer, I don't go to court to get justice. I go to court to expose the injustice. And because that's my goal, I've never lost a case in my career because there's always injustice. But the interesting thing about Mumia's case is that even though Seth Williams has gone ballistic about these judges who in effect kinda ruled in Mumia's favor are not bleeding heart liberal left-wing judges. On the federal district court level, because the way it works on the federal level, you got the district court, circuit court of appeals, and Supreme Court. Well, the judges who ruled in Mumia's favor regarding death were not left-wing liberal judges. These were judges on the federal court appointed by none other than Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. If these right-wing racist fanatics can see the law halfway, what the hell is wrong with Mr. Lynn Abraham? Let me wrap it up in the last 2 minutes by pointing out some key facts about Mumia's case, because remember, as a lawyer, I'm not just saying he's legally not guilty, I'm saying he's factually innocent. These are the 3 strongest points you can use when you're debating with people. Remember these 3 key points. The first point has 2 or 3 parts to it. Anytime somebody uses a firearm to shoot and kill somebody, the first thing the police do is they get the bullet out of the body and match that bullet to the gun. Well, they had the officer on the ground, they had a bullet inside of him, and they had the gun they claimed Mumia had. They claimed Mumia had. Now, by the way, these points I'm making right now are not debatable. These are all facts from the case. So it's nothing anybody can say about me making these up. These are irrefutable facts. Well, when they tried to match the gun they claimed Mumia had to the bullet inside Faulkner, it was inconclusive. Inconclusive, their words. You say Mumia, this crazy black revolutionary, just murdered this heroic white cop. You got this gun you claim was in Mumia's hands. You got the bullet in the officer's body. How could it be inconclusive? That's their point. The second argument, which is just as important, if not more, I do murder cases. I do death penalty murder cases. When my client shoots somebody and the police catch him instantly, the first thing they do is what we lawyers call a neutron activation test, a paraffin test. It's basically a gunpowder test. Well, you got Mumia right there on the ground. You claim he just fired a gun. Check his hands for gunpowder residue. Can you believe they said they forgot? They didn't check his hands. But they checked the jacket or the sweater Mumia had to find out that the gunpowder residue on his jacket came from Faulkner's gun. So if you could tell about the gunpowder on the jacket, why not the gunpowder on the hand? I believe they checked Mumia's hands. I believe it came back negative, but they couldn't say that. So they had to say, we forgot to check his hands. The final point, they claim Mumia had a gun. And the gun they claim Mumia had was a .38 caliber. But the bullet inside Faulkner, from their own medical records expert, was a .44 caliber. Anybody who knows anything about guns know that a .44 caliber bullet can't fit in a .38 caliber gun. On the appellate level, when the question came up and the forms were shown to the medical examiner, .44 caliber, .38 caliber, he said it was a typo. He actually said it was a typo. There's an irrefutable fact, and I'm going to wrap this up in 1 minute because we have other comments from other people. That's the first thing, and I got 1 minute, which is now 58 seconds. So I'll clean it up in 58 seconds. Other thing, during the closing argument, the prosecutor said that Mumia stood over the officer, execution style, fired a gun between his eyes. That's physically impossible. Why? Because the wound that Mumia sustained was a downward wound, from his chest down to the stomach. If he had been standing over the cop, Mumia would have shot from the stomach up to the chest. In order for him to be shot from the chest down to the stomach, he could not, I repeat, could not have been standing over the cop. And finally, they claim Mumia said, "I shot the motherfucker and I hope he dies." Well, that statement didn't even come out till 64 days later. 64 days later. And when they asked the officer, why did he wait so long, he said he was traumatized. This whole case is traumatized. Free Mumia.